Okay, as I mentioned last week, we're going to try something a little different with our study of Frankenstein. We're actually going to try to put together and publish through Amazon our own book. It is going to be a very collective effort on this part, but all of you will be able to claim when we're done that you are a published author. And you'll actually be able to purchase, or not purchase, it may be for free. You'll be able to get a copy and download it, or even order a hard copy of the book if you like. Okay, so the exercise is called a recursion. I'm going to put in Canvas, and there was one available last week, a video that explains what a recursion is. I'll be talking about it in class, but if you want to review that video, those of you that are studying virtually, you can see the explanation of recursion and see kind of the product that we're working toward. So first of all, let's take a look at what it is that I'm asking you to do. Okay. So to begin with, what I'm going to ask you to do is you'll be assigned, most of you, a letter from one of the opening letters in the Frankenstein novel, and then 3 additional chapters. And the chapters are kind of randomly set up, but they're meant to be basically about the same length. So everybody's going to have about the same amount of work to do. Most of the chapters are set up, of course, in paragraphs. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But for each of the assigned chapters that you have, beginning, we'll take the first step will be to work with one of the letters. I'm going to ask you to create something called a wordle, okay? Or this is a word cloud or a tag cloud. And basically, it's going to represent the key words from the chapter. And that, in a sense, will help us a little bit as we work toward what this recursion is. So your first step would be, of course, to go to the website where you have your electronic version of Frankenstein. And when you go there, you'll see it's Romantic Circles. You find the 1831 edition. That's where the link will lead you. And then what you're going to do is you're going to find your letter. So let's suppose you've been assigned letter 2. Okay. And you'll go to letter 2. There it is. Okay. And what I want you to do is you're going to start, and you'll notice on the left-hand side, everything is counted by paragraph. That's going to be important, okay? So this particular chapter or letter has 7 paragraphs, okay? So what I need you to do is you're going to highlight, okay? And it may not work in this little video, but basically you're going to highlight the entire text. So you're going to copy it, okay? And then you're going to bring it over to one of these 2 programs, either the Edwordle link I have here or something called Word It Out. It doesn't matter to me which one you use. They both have different bells and whistles, but they basically create the same thing. And when you open it up, you're going to see something that looks like this. So Edwordle, you will just hit the Create Now, and you see down below examples of what we call word clouds. Now, the size of the word has to do with the amount of repetition it has within the chapter. So basically what this program does is it pulls out the most important words, the ones that are repeated, and it places them in some kind of hierarchical structure. So again, you can use either the Edwordle or the Word It Out, okay? It does the same thing. You're going to copy and you're going to paste your text into the box and then hit Generate, okay? And then when you do, you get a document that looks like this. And you can play with it. You can create colors. You can change the shapes. You can even change the fonts on these things. But you'll see the largest word is clerval and walking, okay? Followed by words like eyes, felt, night, friend, horror, time, hands. Those are words that get repeated multiple times in the course of the chapter or the letter. And so we'll be talking about how to use those a little bit later. But right now we just want to create a little word art and then save that file as a JPEG file. So once you've created your word cloud and saved that copy, and you can save it simply by doing a screen capture. Remember how we talked about that using your Chromebook or your computer to be able to basically capture a piece of your screen and then save that file, okay, as a JPEG file. And then what you're going to do is you're going to create a document, okay, in Google Docs, all right, for the letter or for the chapter that you're working on. In this case, our first day is going to be working with one of the letters. Change the setting in your document to make it a landscape rather than a portrait. Okay, so it's going to be a kind of a letterbox look. Okay, go ahead and put your heading on the document. I don't need a header on this, just your heading. And then I want you to take that Wordle picture, that word art or word cloud, and you're going to paste that right centered as the first part of the document. Okay, and this will be your first page. All right, so what that looks like for those of you keeping score at home, okay, this will be like the typical page. You've got your header, your heading. There's no header. In this case, my example comes from chapter 5, and I put my word art right here in the center. Okay, this of course will be a little bigger, and this will be in a landscape rather than a portrait view. Okay, and then my next page, what I want to do is I want to create a chart. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a chart that has 3 columns. Right, the columns will be titled paragraph number. Okay, 1 to 2 key sentences from the paragraph, and then key words or phrases within those sentences. So what I will do is I want to build a chart that has 3, okay, first of all, like a heading column here, okay? So it's going to have 3 columns, and then the number of rows is going to depend on how many paragraphs I have in my chapter. So let's remember what we were working on here. This was letter number 2. And again, you see the paragraph numbers that are going right here, 1, 2, and we can go all the way down and see that this takes us to paragraph 7. Okay, so in this case, my chart is going to have, I'm going to add an extra row for my heading row. So I'm going to wind up with, put this in pen, I'm going to wind up with 3 columns and 8 rows. Okay. And in this example I have right here, what you've got, or what you can see, is I have my paragraph number 1. Now I'm using chapter 5, and then I'm going to read through. I'm going to take, in that first paragraph, I'm going to look for 1 or 2 sentences that I think are key sentences. It's like, this is what the main gist of this paragraph is about. If I had to like cut everything out, this sentence or these 2 sentences would be what I'd keep. Now, for some of you, it might be a single sentence. Some of you may have a paragraph that's only 1 sentence. In my case, in chapter 5, my paragraph was only 2 sentences, and they were both very important, so I put them both here. Okay. You may even wind up with 3. All right. The number is not important at this point, but you do want to make sure that the sentence is key. There's something important that's happening within the sentence. And all you'll do is you'll copy and paste that entire sentence down. All right. So it's going to look just like it does here. Okay. All right. And then the next step in the 3rd column, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I want to take, within that sentence, I want to pull out a key word or phrase, okay, that's occurring in there. So it might be that I have several. It might be that I only have 1. It might be a single word I pull out. So let's look at this example that I have here, okay? So again, this is from chapter 5, and the first sentence that I pulled, it was a dreary night of November that I beheld the accomplishments of my toils. With an anxiety that almost amounted to agony, I collected the instruments of life around me that I might infuse a spark of being into the lifeless thing that lay at my feet. So I want to consolidate that down. I want to bring it down to its bare essence. So for me, the key words were an anxiety that almost amounted to agony. I thought that was an important set of words. I liked the sound of instruments of life. I also liked infusing a spark. Okay. And then the lifeless thing. I thought those 3 I pulled from the first sentence. They're just phrases. They're images. Now, in the second one, I also pulled 3. All right. So it was already 1 in the morning. The rain pattered dismally against the pane, and my candle was nearly burnt out. So this part here, I liked. I liked that image. The idea of he's worn out. Not only his candle physically that's giving him light, but it's like he's just fatigued. Okay. And then he says, when by the glimmer of the half extinguished light, I saw the dull yellow eye of the creature. I like the wording creature, and the yellow eye tells me it's jaundiced, it's sickly. Okay. And then finally, it breathed hard, and a convulsive motion agitated its limbs. So, what I've done, as you can kind of tell, is I have pulled from the first sentence these 4 phrases. And from my second sentence choice, I pulled these phrases. Okay. And that's going to be my working material for my recursion. That's where it starts. So I'm going to do this with each of the paragraphs. There are 7 paragraphs in this particular letter, so that means I'm going to do this exercise 7 times. Okay. All right. So our first task today is to work with just one of the letters. And then we'll move tomorrow and you'll start working. And this is what, when we have a recursion day, this is what you'll be doing. You'll be working with the 3 chapters that are assigned to you plus the 1 letter. And you'll be basically cutting the book down to its bare essence. And that's really the goal in this. This part right here is going to be our working material, just like Victor has body parts. We're pulling body parts from the book itself, and we're going to be recreating our own version of it.